Hello and welcome to PlayStation Grenade. There's something about horror games that keeps us coming back for more. Maybe it's the satisfaction of surviving a zombie horde or enduring a near-death experience. There's a huge chunk of people who can't get enough suspense and horror and a little blood and guts too. Here's my pick for 10 games that will scare the shit out of you. Can I say shit? I've said shit now, so move on. I've also made this list because there's a few titles that are in development hell and could use our attention. A good horror game isn't just for Halloween, folks, it's for life. Let's start with the remake of Resident Evil 2.
And don't make my mistake. If you see one of those things, uniform or not, you do not hesitate.
Depending on when or if you played the original, which came out 20 years ago, you'll know how frightening it can be in the corridors of Raccoon City Police Department. In the remake, Claire and Leon both return, with a few updates from 1998. Now powered by the engine used to create Resident Evil 7, the RE2 remake sees environments extremely lifelike and far more realistic, especially with the added lighting. This is going to be pant-wettingly tense. Gone are the fixed camera angles from the 1990s, replaced with an over-the-shoulder shot, which adds to the immersion, as you are never quite sure what's behind your back. One of the founders of survival horror has been updated, but with just enough of the original mechanics, which made Resident Evil the pinnacle zombie experience. The Resident Evil 2 remake releases on PS4, PC and Xbox on January the 25th. I'll be playing it here on the channel if you don't want to experience it all on your own. Let's keep the zombie-inspired vibe going with The Last of Us Part 2. If you played the original from back in 2013, you'll know that this isn't survival horror as you'd expect it. The Last of Us was a narrative masterpiece stitched together with constant threat of a single bite ending your playthrough. And by the end of the game, we all realised that human beings are the real enemies here. The Last of Us Part 2 continues those sentiments and follows a now grown-up Ellie. The fight scenes are even more tense than in the first game, with added mechanics such as hiding in long grass and praying they don't look for you where you're hidden, escaping under vehicles, ready to strike, and literally taking arrows out of your enemies to use in your trusty bow. The Last of Us Part 2 takes survival-style action-adventure to another level. As I'm writing this, it's uncertain if Part 2 will release in 2019 or 2020. Fingers crossed it's the former. And just in case you weren't aware, The Last of Us Part 2 is only available on PlayStation 4 and likely the PlayStation 5 too. Did you play the Silent Hills demo a few years back? It was great, but sadly the game was cancelled and we all moved on with a heavy heart. Luckily, that project inspired Allison Road.
The last thing I want to do right now is play a game.
The indie project looks so similar to Silent Hills that it was thrown into the limelight without really being ready, and subsequently it was cancelled twice. 3 years later, their website stopped updating content and their social media went dark. This may be a shot in the dark, but could 2019 bring Allison Road back into the public eye? We'll have to wait to find out, but I'm not ready to say goodbye to this indie Kickstarter. What do you think happened to Allison Road? Is it dead, or waiting to pounce around the next corner?
Whoa! You were trying to force the door, you nosy prick!
Easy, sir, all right? Put down the axe.
You know what we do with rubble like you? We gut them! Dump them into the ocean!
Do you know the legend of the Cthulhu? It's like an octopus dragon thing, but other people describe it differently. Back in the 1920s, author H.P. Lovecraft, great name, released a short story named The Call of Cthulhu. And since that day, the legend has grown, and now 90 years later, Call of Cthulhu, the official video game, is ready to strike. The plot follows Edward Pierce, a good old private investigator who looks into the death of an entire family on Dark Water Island. Little does he know, the impending revival of the Cthulhu is about to happen. This could be another game in development hell, but after a period of 2 years without update, the horror story was set to release in 2017. Obviously, that didn't happen, but we are now fast approaching the next anticipated release of October the 30th, 2018. Many people are skeptical about that date, but from what we've seen, this stealth-infused psychological horror title is worth the wait.
This was supposed to be easy. Just track her down again and bring her home. I had no idea how wrong I was, and how far I would really have to go.
Someday You'll Return is an upcoming psychological horror game developed by CBE Software, which is hugely inspired by the story of Silent Hill. The developer also notes Outlast 2, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, and Resident Evil 7 Biohazard as inspiration. We've only seen a glimpse so far, with the release date being a vague 2019. If Someday You'll Return can take elements from all those great horror franchises, then we're in for a treat in 2019. This is Ad Infinitum, how's your Latin? A horror video game based in the trenches of World War I. Experienced in first person, where creatures of darkness lurk in the shadows, we'll be surviving the battlefield, trench warfare, and solving puzzles to progress the story. The atmosphere is paramount in horror titles, and Ad Infinitum has it in abundance. Please, horror gods, don't let this game be cancelled.
This is lead researcher Archer calling any survivors on this frequency. Is anyone out there? I repeat, this is lead researcher Archer calling for any survivors on this frequency. Is anyone... Rose?
A new horror title first announced at 2018's Gamescom is Close to the Sun, set in the 19th century around the skills of Nikola Tesla and his thirst to create new things. We take control of Rose, a journalist who is attempting to write a story and ends up being trapped in this facility. She must find out what went wrong and how she can survive this nightmare. This has a vibe like BioShock and massive inspirations from steampunk. It could be promising. Close to the Sun releases early in 2019 on PS4 and PC. Asymmetric horror games were all the rage last year, with Friday the 13th and Dead by Daylight being the highlights. Battle Royale is the current trend, which brings us to a horror game that smashes both concepts together head first. Hide or Die. 15 players start out in a nuclear bunker, and once the doors open, they must be the sole survivor and reach the exit without being killed by traps or being consumed by the darkness. I believe in a thing called love. One player takes control of the hunter, who is tasked with taking down all the survivors. The hunter then takes on the final survivor in a tense one-on-one battle, as there can be only one. As this game is in such an early state, it will take quite a while for it to reach us on console, but Steam users, keep an eye on their Steam page for weekly updates. Here's one I'm quite excited about. How about a cooperative horror game? Blackout Club is set to release in 2019. Up to 4 players take on the role of teenagers looking to find out what's going on in their town. They discover people are sleepwalking at night and will use different skills to progress the storyline. Each character has a different skill set. All this is happening with the presence of a stalker who can pounce at any moment.
When the shape catches you, it turns you into a sleepwalker, but on the 3rd strike, you die.
Little else is known at this point, but Blackout Club looks damn good and it has me hyped. But what do you think? There's so many more horror games we could have included in this list, such as Madison, Scorn, Moons of Madness, but I think this list has enough variety for any self-respecting horror fan. But what are your favourites? The RE2 remake and Blackout Club look great to me. I'm Adam from PlayStation Grenade. It's been a bloody pleasure like always. I'll see you next time.